Chapter 1. The Fox Girl Behind the Glass. The freighter's docking clamps clanged like distant thunder, jolting Elias Kale from the captain's chair. He rubbed the grit from his eyes as the Wayfarer's wings settled into berth, the hull vibrating under the station's magnetic moorings. Zeyrith Prime loomed beyond the viewport. A sprawl of chrome towers, neon sigils, and endless layers of platforms circling a pale blue gas giant. The place smelled of ozone and hot metal the moment the airlock cycled, a stew of alien perfumes and engine grease. Elias slipped into the river of bodies flowing through the trade concourse. Shimmering insectoids clicked their mandibles in rapid deals. Broad-scale reptilians haggled in hissing tones. Vendors shouted in half a dozen languages, offering glowing fruit, plasma rifles, or star maps older than Earth's governments. Elias ignored most of it. He'd come to Zeyrith for one thing: spare grav-core parts before his ship gave up mid-jump. But the sight stopped him cold. Behind a pane of reinforced glass sat a girl, or something close enough to one. She perched on the edge of a cage barely wider than a bunk, her knees drawn to her chest. Ears like russet flames twitched at the crowd's noise, sharp and alert. A cascade of crimson-tinted hair half-shadowed her vulpine face, and her golden eyes burned like twin suns. Chains glinted around her ankles, though she held herself as if they were beneath her notice. A sign in trade glyphs pulsed above, Kiriani female. Rare. Tameable. Elias's stomach nodded. He'd heard of the Kiriani, fox-born wanderers, proud hunters from the frontier worlds. But here she was, reduced to merchandise. When his gaze lingered too long, her eyes snapped to his. Her lip curled, revealing a hint of fawn. She rose with a predator's grace and pressed closer to the glass. You staring because you're curious, or because you think you can own me? Her voice was low, edged with venom, yet soft as velvet underneath. Elias flinched. Most slaves on Zeyrith kept their eyes down, spirits broken. She burned. I'm not here to buy anyone, he said carefully. Her laugh was short, bitter. Good. No human could love a fox girl anyway. You break before we bend. Something in the way she said human, like it was a curse, lodged deep in his chest. Elias should have walked away. He should have kept moving, bought his parts, and left Zeyrith behind. But as the hum of the station vibrated to the floor, as neon light painted her golden eyes in shifting hues, Elias realized he was already making a choice that had nothing to do with spare parts. He leaned closer to the glass and whispered, "Maybe you just never met the right one." Her ears flicked back. For the first time, her expression faltered, and that was when Elias knew he was in trouble. Chapter 2. Sparks in the Engine Bay. The Wayfarer's wings shuddered as her engines pushed free of Zeyrith Prime's gravity well, the hum of the drives filling every bulkhead like a steady heartbeat. Elias sat in the pilot's chair, knuckles white around the throttle. He could still feel the sting of credits leaving his account, more than he could afford, for the freedom of one fox-eared stranger now pacing the corridor behind him. Seris. That was the name she finally muttered when he asked, though it had been laced with disdain, as though giving it to him was charity. "You think this makes us even?" she said, tail swishing in visible irritation. Her reflection in the cockpit glass was a streak of russet ears and golden glare. "You bought me out of one cage just to lock me in another. This tin isn't freedom. It's just smaller." Elias exhaled, pinching the bridge of his nose. "Lady, if you want off, I'll drop you on the next habitable moon and wish you luck. Until then, you'll have to live with recycled air and my bad cooking." She scoffed. "Humans, always joking when you should be ashamed." The ship groaned suddenly, alarms flashing amber across the console. Gravity fluctuated, tugging Elias half out of his seat before stabilizers whined back online. Sparks showered down from a panel in the corridor. "Not now." Elias muttered, leaping from his chair. He popped the hatch to the engine bay. With a grav core pulse erratically, blue light flickering like a dying star. The air smelled sharp. Ozone and burnt circuitry. Seris stood in the doorway, arms crossed. Your ship's falling apart. How predictable. He shot her a glare. You know how to fix a grav core? No. Then hand me the fusion spanner. To his surprise, she did. She crouched beside him, nimble fingers working the auxiliary feed without needing instruction. Her movements were precise, almost instinctive, like someone who had taken apart far more complicated machines than this patched-together freighter. Not bad, Elias admitted. Sweat slicked his forehead as he tightened the conduit coupling. Didn't think a Kiriani aristocrat would dirty her hands with tech. Her ears twitched back. Aristocrat? You humans know nothing. My people repair what we need to survive. We don't throw things away just because they're inconvenient. She cast him a sharp glance. Unlike you, the words hit harder than they should have. Elias forced a grin. Guess I deserve that. A final twist, and the grav core stabilized, humming with renewed strength. The light steadied, casting the engine bay in a soft cobalt glow. For a moment, the silence stretched between them, punctuated only by the low thrum of the ship. Seris studied him, golden eyes narrowing as though measuring something she didn't want to admit. You bleed credits for me. You bleed sweat for this ship. But will you bleed for anything that isn't yours, human? Elias wiped his hands on his jumpsuit, meeting her gaze. Stick around, Fox Girl. You might get your answer. Her tail flicked once, betraying the faintest spark of curiosity. Chapter 3. Hunted across the stars. The stars blurred into streaks as the Wayfarer's wing hurtled through hyperspace, its engines thrumming with the rhythm of distance devoured. Elias leaned back in the pilot's chair, trying to ignore the gnaw of exhaustion. Across the cockpit, Seris sat curled in the co-pilot's seat, golden eyes fixed on the swirling tunnel of light outside. She hadn't spoken for a long while, until her ears twitched. They're following, she whispered. Before he could ask how, the ship's proximity alarm shrieked. Hyperspace distorted into chaos as something tore behind them. Sleek black raider ships, their hulls painted with the crimson sigils of the SRYDH syndicate. Elias swore under his breath. Bounty hunters. Someone wants you back bad. Her tail lashed. My former master. He won't let his prize slip away. The raiders locked on, and the wing jolted under weapons fire. Sparks rained down, casting wild shadows across Seris's face. Elias gritted his teeth and threw the freighter into a dive, hyperspace lanes collapsing around them. The ship burst back into normal space, straight into the jagged embrace of an asteroid belt. Rock spires spun past like blades, their surfaces glinting with reflected starlight. Elias's hands flew across the controls, muscles taut with focus. The freighter wove between tumbling boulders, engines screaming. Seris clutched the seat straps, eyes wide. You're insane. Maybe, Elias muttered, jerking the throttle as a missile whistled past, exploding against a drifting rock. But you're still alive, aren't you? The raiders pressed closer, maneuvering with predatory precision. One ship clipped a boulder, shattering in a burst of flame, but two more closed in. Warning klaxons howled. Their hull had been breached near the cargo bay. Elias bolted from the cockpit, weapon in hand. The corridor reeked of smoke and burning insulation. Gravity faltered, sending him half-floating as figures in dark armor forced their way through the ruptured hatch. Blaster fire lit the corridor in violent flashes. Elias ducked, returned fire, and caught one raider's center mass. Another surged forward, swinging a shock baton. Elias barely parried with the butt of his rifle, but the blow rattled him to the core. A scream, Seris's, echoed behind him. He turned just in time to see a raider raise his weapon toward her. Without thinking, Elias lunged, putting himself between her and the shot. The impact slammed into his side, white-hot agony tearing through him. He collapsed against the wall, breath ragged, smoke filling his lungs. Seris stared at him, frozen, ears flat in disbelief. Blood stained his jumpsuit, but his eyes locked on hers with stubborn fire. "Run," he rasped. "Don't let them take you." For the first time, the mask of scorn broke on her face. Her hands trembled as she reached for him, voice cracking like glass. "You fool! You'd bleed for me?" He managed a grin, teeth red with blood. "Told you, humans don't break that easy." And in that moment, something inside Seris cracked, too. Chapter 4, A Heart Laid Bare. The Wayfarer's wing limped through space like a wounded beast, its hull scarred and engines whining. Elias barely remembered steering them away from the asteroid field. Just a blur of Seris's frantic hands on the controls, her growl of determination filling the cockpit as he drifted in and out of consciousness. Now the ship lay hidden on the surface of a nameless moon, half buried in lavender mist that coiled between jagged cliffs. The night sky above shimmered with twin auroras, pale blue and violent red, dancing together in silence. Elias sat slumped against a boulder outside the freighter, his side bound in rough bandages. Each breath stabbed, but the clean chill of the alien air soothed him. He watched Seris crouch beside a fire she'd coaxed from scavenged fuel canisters. Her sharp silhouette glowed in the flickering light. Ears alert, tail curled around her legs. For once, she wasn't sneering. She was quiet. "You should have let them take me," she said finally, her voice low but sharp. "No human in their right mind would bleed for Kiriani. We are hated, feared, sold as ornaments. You nearly died for what? A stranger in a cage?" Elias shifted, grimacing at the pain but forcing a crooked smile. "Guess I'm not in my right mind, then." Her eyes snapped to his, golden and burning. "You don't understand. My people, when humans came to our worlds, they leashed us. Collars, chains. They called it mercy. They called it integration. And we let them because resistance meant extinction. So don't tell me you're different. Don't pretend." Elias's hands curled into fists against the cold rock. "I'm not pretending. I wasn't there. But I can choose who I am now. And I'll damn well prove it. To you, to your people, to anyone who says otherwise." The fire crackled between them. Seris's ears lowered slightly, her tail twitching once, betraying uncertainty. She looked away, staring into the alien sky. "You talk like you can bend stars with words," she murmured. "Always so sure of yourselves, you humans. Stubborn to the point of madness." He chuckled weakly. "Yeah, that's kind of our thing." Silence stretched. Then, almost reluctantly, Seris reached across the space between them. Her clawed fingers brushed his bandaged side, tentative, careful not to hurt him. Elias caught the faint tremor in her hand. "I should hate you," she whispered. But when you stood in front of that blaster, her voice faltered, brittle. "No Kiriani male would have done that. They fight for dominance, for pride, never for someone else." Elias swallowed hard, his throat tight. "Then maybe that's what makes us human. We fight for each other, even when it hurts." For a long time, Seris didn't answer. But she didn't pull her hand away either. The auroras rippled above, their light painting her golden eyes softer, almost vulnerable. And in the hush of that alien night, Elias felt something shift, a fragile thread tying them together, stronger than chains, stronger than fear. Chapter 5, The Choice of Bladed Dawn. The first light of twin suns bled across the jagged cliffs, painting the alien moon in fire and gold. Elias adjusted the straps of his patched armor, ignoring the sting in his side. The Wayfarer's wing sat hidden in a canyon below, hull scorched but alive. He had hoped the barren refuge would buy them time. It hadn't. The hunters came at dawn. Their dropships cut through the auroras like knives, engines howling. Dark armored figures descended on anti-grav wings, weapons glinting in the new light. The SHRYTH syndicate never let prey escape twice. Elias raised his rifle, heart pounding, his breath fogged in the chill air. Beside him, Seris crouched low, ears flat, tail bristling like a banner of defiance. Her claws flexed, catching the dawn light. "You should have left me," she hissed, but her voice was trembling. "Not really my style," Elias muttered, sighting down the barrel. "Besides, someone's got to prove you wrong." The first wave hit. Blaster fire screamed across the cliffs, scorching rock and filling the air with acrid smoke. Elias rolled behind cover, returning fire in tight bursts. Each recoil jarred his wound, but adrenaline drowned the pain. Seris moved like liquid flame, darting between shadows, her claws raking across armor joints. She fought with a primal ferocity Elias had never seen, a snarl tearing from her throat as she sent one raider tumbling into the abyss. Yet numbers pressed in. The hunters weren't here to kill. They were here to take her back. One raised a comm link, shouting terms in a guttural tongue. Elias caught enough to understand. Surrender the Koreani and the human walks free. The world seemed to still, smoke curling around the rocks, sunlight burning brighter. Elias met Seris's wide, golden eyes. Her chest rose and fell, rapid, as if she was ready to beg him not to be a fool. But Elias stepped out from cover, lowering his rifle. The raiders closed in, weapons leveled. His voice was raw but unshaken. "You want her? You'll have to take me first." A crackle of disbelief rippled through their ranks. Even Seris froze, staring at him as if she didn't recognize a man who bled and burned just to stand at her side. Then she moved. With a cry that split the morning, Seris lunged, tail whipping like fire, claws tearing through steel. She fought not as a caged prize, but as something unleashed, her fury ignited by one human's refusal to abandon her. Elias gritted his teeth and raised his rifle again, firing into chaos. Sunlight caught on the muzzle flashes, turning every shot into a promise that humans could not be bought, could not be bent. The raiders faltered. Some fell, some fled. And as the smoke thinned, Elias and Seris stood back to back atop the cliff, two silhouettes against the burning dawn. Chapter 6. Love that burns brighter than stars. The battlefield lay silent at last. Smoke curled from the shattered cliffs, carrying the acrid tang of scorched metal and blood into the crisp dawn air. The syndicate raiders were gone, some broken on the rocks below, the rest retreating into the sky. Elias staggered, his rifle heavy in his hands. His chest heaved, every breath a reminder of torn flesh and bruised ribs. Yet when he turned, with his eyes found Seris, the pain dulled to something distant. She stood among the wreckage like a figure carved from flame and starlight. Her furred ears twitched, tail swaying low, golden eyes fixed on him with an expression he'd never seen before. Something raw, unguarded. "You're mad," she whispered, stepping closer. Her voice trembled, but not with anger. "You stood between me and death. Again. No chains, no contracts, no reason but your own." Elias sank to one knee, more from exhaustion than dramatics, though he managed a crooked grin. "Told you, Fox Girl. Humans don't break easy." Her breath caught. She knelt beside him, claws hovering uncertainly near his bandaged side, as though afraid to hurt him further. For a heartbeat she hesitated, then touched him lightly, reverently, her tail brushing against his arm. "My people, we don't do this," she confessed, words spilling like a dam broken. "We fight for ourselves, for pride, for blood debts, not for love." not for something unseen. I swore no human could love a Curiani. I swore I'd never believe it. Her gaze locked with his, fierce and fragile at once. And yet, you prove me wrong. Elias's throat tightened. The hum of the Wayfarer's wing drifted from the canyon below, steady and alive, as if waiting for them. He reached up, brushing a strand of crimson hair from her face, fingers lingering against the warmth of her skin. Guess that makes us both stubborn, he murmured. For the first time, Seris smiled, not mocking, not bitter, but small and trembling, like it hurt to let it out. She leaned closer, her forehead pressing against his. Her voice was barely audible, but it burned brighter than the suns above them. Then maybe a human can love a fox girl, and maybe she can love him back. The words settled between them like an oath. The auroras faded in the morning light, and the world felt impossibly wide, impossibly new. Together they rose, supporting each other, and made their way back to the freighter. On the bridge, starlight spilled across their faces as Elias set a new course, not for any safe harbor or familiar trade route, but into the uncharted stars. Seris stood beside him, tail brushing his arm, her hand resting lightly on his shoulder. The future was uncertain, the galaxy hostile, but in that moment Elias knew one truth clear as fire. Somewhere between the chains of the past and the infinity of the stars, they had found something worth bleeding for, and no force in the universe could take it from them. The Wayfarer's wing drifted free of the moon's gravity, its engines whispering steady through the hull. Beyond the viewport stretched a sea of alien stars, emerald constellations, violet nebulae, and the faint glow of distant trade lanes threading across black infinity. The galaxy was vast, dangerous, unwelcoming, and yet, in the quiet hum of recycled air and the soft pulse of artificial gravity, it felt like home. Elias sat at the helm, one arm bound in fresh bandages, the other resting on the throttle. Beside him, Sarah stood close enough that her tail brushed his arm with every breath. Her golden eyes lingered on him, no longer sharp with defiance, but bright with something fragile, something alive. "You still don't understand what you've done," she murmured. "You didn't just free me from chains. You made me believe there's a place where I can belong." Elias turned, the faint glow of console lights painting his worn face. "Then we'll make that place together." Her hand slipped into his, claws careful, hesitant. Then she smiled, soft and trembling, and in that moment the stars outside seemed to burn brighter. The freighter leapt forward, streaking into hyperspace. Two silhouettes, one human, one fox girl, stood side by side at the bridge, watching as light folded around them. For the first time, the future wasn't a cage. It was a horizon, and Seris whispered, almost to herself, but loud enough for him to hear. Maybe humans don't break. Maybe they teach others how to be whole.